So I want to talk with you about Galatians 5.26, but I want to talk about glory first, because it's important to understand that word a little bit. So we're going to look in 1 Corinthians 15. We've read this recently, so I'm going to go back and read this again. We're going to read it in light of the word glory. Now the word glory comes from the word dokeo, which means to show. So glory could be translated a showing, or you could call it a true showing. But I wouldn't put true on there, because true implies a prefix of EU, you. It means true or beautiful, and that doesn't appear in the word. Also, when you add things onto that, when you find prefixes on that word, dokse, if you have true stuck in there, then it gets a little weird. So I don't think that's quite right to do. Here's the passage. It's 1 Corinthians 15:34. This is where Paul says you must stop sinning. He says it point blank. Awake to righteousness and sin not. Now, how are you going to get around that? So you got Jesus, you got John, you got Paul. Every one of them expect you to stop sinning. And what did the apostate churches teach? That as long as we're in the body, we can't help but sin. They're calling Paul a liar, John a liar, and Jesus a liar. How much more evidence do you need to know that those are apostate churches? One of the first questions you ask when you go to a church, you ask the pastor or leadership, do you believe that Christians can stop sinning? Not that they cannot sin, but that they must stop sinning. And they can. If they say, no, you can't stop sinning until you die, then just walk out. There's nothing more to say. There's nothing more to discuss. If they don't believe that Christians can stop sinning, then that means that they're sinning. That means that they are brothers who are sinning, and you need to separate yourself from them. Paul says so. And here he says, awake to righteousness and sin not. For some have not the knowledge of God. It's shameful. Those who have not woken to righteousness and have not stopped sinning, they do not have the knowledge of God. That's what Paul just said. I speak this to your shame. So they must have been like the apostate churches. But some men will say, how are the dead raised up? Now that's interesting. Why would he go to that? Why would he go to that? But some men will say, how are the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? Thou fool. Wow. And that's how it feels sometimes with some of these questions that are asked here. Is that they're trying to pry into the things of God that God doesn't want to reveal to you. And yet you keep trying to pry in and rob God because he doesn't want to give it to you. So if you try to take it, you're trying to rob him. Thou fool, thou which thou sowest is not quickened except it die. Quickened is like brought to life. It can't be brought to life unless it's dead. So it must die first and then come to life. And that which thou sowest not that body that shall be, but bear grain. So what you're sowing is not the body that will become, but just the seed of the body. It may chance of wheat or some other grain. It may be wheat or some other grain by chance. You don't know. Meaning chance, meaning you don't know. Not that it's random. But God giveth it a body as it hath pleased him, and to every seed his own body. So we see that the King James causes confusion here, because you could read that one of two ways. Like he gives to each, gives it a body as he's determined, like as he is chosen, just arbitrarily, or as that person has pleased God in whatever way he's pleased God, God has given him a different kind of body. It could be either way in the English, but it's the first way in the Greek. It's the first way. So he gives, let me pull up the Greek here. But God gives him a body just as he determines, and to every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh, but there is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, and another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial, meaning like celestial is in the sky and terrestrial is on the earth. And you say, what would terrestrial bodies be except for birds and mammals and reptiles? And what about mountains? What about trees? What about rocks? Those are terrestrial bodies. What they mean by bodies is things, right? What he means by body is things. So it says, but the glory of the celestial is one. So now he's talking about all of the things in the sky. Because celestial, well, let's see what that word is here, okay? It says, oh, yeah, all right. So celestial has the word heaven in it, which literally means sky. So when we read heaven, the word there literally means sky. So this is upon the sky. So epi oranos. It's upon the sky. So that's what he's translating. They're translating celestial. So, and a body upon the sky and a body upon the earth, but a different even for the one upon the heaven, glory, and another upon the earth, glory. Okay, so celestial and terrestrial, that's fine. Those are the words we have in English that mean the same thing. Celestial is upon the sky, but we usually think of celestial as like an outer space. But that's not what this means. This means not on the earth. So it's in the sky, like where the birds fly, where the clouds are, where the stars are. It's all celestial. But there are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial. But the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. It doesn't say one. It says the glory of the celestial is a different, and the glory of the celestial is another. So it's just making a distinction between the two. It doesn't mean that the celestial bodies all have one glory. It means that their kind of glories are different than the kind of glories on the earth. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for one star differeth from another star in glory. So he's saying each and every body has its own glories. And also, so also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption. Not incorruption, but in corruption. It is raised in incorruption. Corruption means that it can decay. It can wither. It's literally wither. So it's better to substitute. It is sown in withering. It is raised in the inability to wither. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. So that's interesting that he should have that opposite of dishonor and glory. Let's have a closer look at that. 43. Dishonor, yeah, it's like without value, right? Without value. So literally without value. So it is sown in the lack of value. being without value, devalued. Okay? Dishonored is okay, but devalued is closer. It is sown in devaluation. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power or capability. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit, like a living spirit or bringing to life spirit. Howbeit that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural. How could it have been that what was first was not spiritual, but natural? And afterward, that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the Lord from heaven. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy, like of the earth. And as is the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. He's still talking about glory. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. So we shall bear the image of the heavenly. We shall bear that glory of Jesus Christ. Because right now, we have that devaluation of Adam. He's talking about something that's yet to come. Because it says that we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Meaning we don't yet. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Again, this is about salvation. Whenever he talks about the inheritance of the kingdom of God, he's talking about salvation, because sin is to be without an allotment. When we sin, we cannot be saved because we have no allotment. We have to have an allotment in the kingdom of God. Born from above, remember? If we're born from above, that means as being born from above, we also have an inheritance above. And if we sin, we lose that allotment. And it has to be forgiven and restored to us. Neither do corruption inherit incorruption. Neither does withering inherit, like naturally inherit, the inability to wither. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, meaning like die. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed. In a moment, now be careful with this, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. That's talking about being changed. That it's in the twinkling of an eye that we are changed. Not raptured, changed. Because the dead are changed also. Okay? And it's in a twinkling of an eye, but it's when they're raised. It says, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trump shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, without the ability to wither. They shall be raised like that. So that shall happen in the twinkling of an eye as well. That change from the withering to the inability to wither happens in the twinkling of an eye. Not the rapture. The change. The dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So keep that all together. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. That's all in the twinkling of an eye. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal shall put on immortality. That which must die must put on the inability to die. Then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. Okay, so this is about glory. So now we know that glory is to show. And each thing shows differently. Each thing shows differently. Okay? But each thing does show. And what does it show? Glory and honor and power be unto you forever and ever. Right? Glory. All the glory of all the bodies, celestial and terrestrial, of all the different kinds, show glory that belongs to the Father. You thought I was going to say Jesus Christ, but it's to the Father. Even Jesus Christ said he came to bring glory to the Father. So the question is, what happens when we conceal that glory? Or we reveal some glory that isn't ours? We're trying to show some glory that isn't ours. Let's have a look at Galatians. Because that's what I really want to get at. This is just background. Okay, this is like rooting you in the idea of glory, the foundation for it. But now let's look at Galatians. I've translated it to the rooted word this morning, and it says, "May we not cause to be empty showings of glories for each other, calling in front of each other jealous ill will." Let me try it again, okay? Listen closely. May we not cause to be empty showings of glories for each other, calling in front of each other jealous ill will. Let this sink in a minute. I'll read it again. You can try thinking about this. May we not cause to be empty showings of glories for each other, calling in front of to each other jealous ill will. The main word, of course, is empty showings of glories. Okay? What is an empty showing of glory? Showing glory that isn't yours. It's not yours. It has no grounding in reality of you. You could say, well, pretending to be something that you're not. Yeah, that is a kind of empty showing of glory. You're showing some glory off that's not yours. Have you achieved that? Did you do that? Is that who you are? Because if it's not, it's an empty showing of glory. When I first got to Los Angeles in 2014, and I started trying to do business, and I was reaching out to local businesses, and I was getting ready to hire some people, and I talked to some other business owners. They said, well, you got to be careful doing business here in Southern California. Did you read the sign when you drove into town? I said, I flew. He says, well, I don't mean literally. He says, you know, the town sign for Los Angeles should say, fake it till you make it. Meaning that you pretend to be someone you're not until you actually achieve that, by people believing that you are and giving you business accordingly. And so then you can start to point to the business, the real business that you've gotten after you were pointing to fake business that you had never had. That is empty showing of glory. So when you talk with Christian language at a level that is not yours, it doesn't have to do with what you've achieved. It's empty showing of glory. And it's the opposite of humility. It's the opposite of humility. Just a minute, I want to look up a word. So I've turned to Jacob, chapter 4, verse 6, because there it mentions pride. And I wanted to see the relationship of the two words. And they're not related, but they are kind of. So It says, God arranges himself in an orderly manner against the ones shining from above. But he gives cheerful graciousness to the one who places himself into depression. Shining from above. And this as an idea is related to the empty showing of glory. But the shining from above might even be based on real achievement. So even we who have achieved something have to be careful how we use it and how we present it. We have to be careful about it. Even Paul was dancing very close to the edge on that a couple of times. So we have to be very careful about that. But the empty showings of glory, that's where you haven't achieved anything. I mean, you may have achieved something, but what you're displaying is something grander or bigger or different than what you have achieved. You can't do that. You can't do that. It's fraud. You're a liar. And I've already said many times, so you know what it says in Revelation, but I'll read it for you this time about liars and what happens to them. All liars. So right here in Revelation 21, so I'll read it here from the King James. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars. It's the only one that has the word all in front of it. The other ones are just the word. But this one says, and all liars shall have their part in the lake of which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Eternal damnation. All liars. You must stop lying. Above all sins, you must stop lying. So that means empty glories. It's a form of lying. You've got to stop it. Just honestly present your glory, whatever it is. Don't try to shine it from above. Just present it as it is. As a matter of fact. Don't embellish on it. Don't make it be something that it's not. Because then you're a liar. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him and obey Him with all your heart.
Remember to subscribe down below and like the video and share it on your Facebook and other social media. And then make a comment, whether a question or a comment. We read all of them and we try to respond to all. Get on over to our website, The Rooted Word, and start reading the translation and also the articles that we've posted. It's at therootedword.com, therootedword.com. And may the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.